Good evening. Hey y'all. Welcome back to Tylane Ducksworth Reviews. I am Tylane. Over here, we cover everything from reality TV, real world tragedies, and today's story, you guys, it is really heavy. It's heartbreaking and honestly, it leaves behind way more questions than answers. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about what we do know. So there was a story that came out. Georgia teen accused of unaliving mom and stepdad before her younger sister discovered their bodies in their bed. This is so sad, you guys. This is, girl, the world is just falling to pieces as we know. You try to keep up with everything that's going on and all the mess and the gossip and the celebrity news. Anytime I run across stories like this, it is very, very hard. And my heart goes out to everybody involved. As I was saying, a story comes out of Georgia where a 17-year-old girl is accused of unaliving both her mother and stepfather inside their family home. The most chilling part about this is that the bodies were discovered by the little girl was 5 years old who reportedly walked into the bedroom and found them in their bed. Now, the police were called to the scene, and soon after, the 17-year-old was taken into custody. As of now, she is facing murder charges, and the entire community is in shock. No clear motive has been released by law enforcement. But here's where things get even more complicated. We're going to go ahead and listen to the news clip regarding this.
We first brought you as breaking news on Good Day Atlanta this morning. Fox 5's Kevin Stewart joins us live at the Carroll County Jail. And Kevin, we understand the daughter of one of the victims has been charged with the killings.
Yeah, that is the big shocker. The teen daughter is now in custody, charged with 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault. She is here at the county jail being held without bond.
In the Tice community just outside of Carrollton, they said this type of violence never happens here. But then it did. And detectives now say it wasn't a stranger, but the female victim's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, now accused of shooting her mother, Christian Brock, and stepfather, James Brock.
We don't know what goes through the mind of a child who wants to harm their parents.
In fact, investigators confirmed Patrick is the one who called 911 after her little sister, only 5 years old at the time, found their parent shot to death back on February 20th. Nearly 5 months later, deputies tell reporters a trail of evidence led the case to the 17-year-old.
She's 17. She's kind of been out on her own. She's lived with different family members and kind of moved all over the place.
This woman, Jody, did not want her face shown, is a neighbor and friend of the family, including the suspect.
And I told her that I was so sorry.
She feels betrayed.
I kept watching the funeral over and over when she was up there talking. I said, there's something about her. To me, she was fake crying.
You should know her biological father turned her in Tuesday morning.
Our team has pursued every lead, sifted through mountains of physical and digital evidence, conducted countless interviews, and collaborated with agencies such as the FBI, the GBI Crime Lab.
There's no official word of motive, problems in the home, or prior calls to the home on the teen suspect, but Jody claims the mother shared what was going on inside this home.
All she said was Sarah Grace was bucking her because she didn't want to be there. She wanted to live with her daddy.
Investigators are, for now, happy to have an arrest as the justice system tries to make sense of this.
I believe, according to his family, he had a lot of heart trouble. He'd had numerous heart surgeries. I believe he may have been waiting on a heart transplant at some point. And to have his life cut short, that's a big takeaway from this story, and that a mother and a stepfather will never be able to raise their children.
And investigators say they continue to chase some chatter on social media, and they're not ruling out more arrests. Reporting live from Carroll County, Kevin Stewart, Fox 5 News.
Just so shocking. Kevin, thanks.
This is so sad, you guys. I hate stuff like this, but I want to say that everything in this video is alleged. I'm going to try to go a little bit deeper. So there are reports that are still unconfirmed that the teen, I believe her name is Sarah Grace, may have wanted to live with her biological father instead of staying in the home with her mom and her stepdad. For me, you guys, that raises a red flag right away. Like when I first saw this story, I didn't want to insinuate anything, but I was like, something don't sound like it's adding up. So Because if a teenager wants out that badly, we have to know that something deeper may be going on. Now, let me be clear here. This is my personal speculation. Everything in this video is alleged, not confirmed information, but I have to say this. Sometimes when we see this level of violence from someone so young, it's not about rebellion like people may think. It possibly could be about trauma. I wouldn't be surprised if this young girl was trying to escape abuse, whether physical, emotional, or even sexual. We have seen way too many times and too many cases where stepfathers are later revealed to have been molesting young girls, and the mothers either don't believe them or they turn a blind eye. I lost my train of thought. So, again, I'm not saying that's what happened here, but it wouldn't be the first time. What also stood out to me with this is if this girl did experience some kind of traumatic event or ongoing traumatic event and her own mother didn't protect her, the betrayal hits different. Sometimes moms have the propensity to stay with men that they know are hurting their children because of their own trauma. Sometimes they choose men over their child or children, and I will never understand it. To me, that is very depraved behavior. It's sick. And it creates internal rage inside of a person that simmers until something tragic happens. Now, like I said, none of this is confirmed. Could that be what played out here? Or could we just be dealing with the teenager that was rebellious or dealing with some other kind of mental illnesses that we aren't aware of? I don't know. But y'all, let's talk about the other victim in this story. And that is the other child that found the parents was 5 years old and found her parents unalived in bed. Y'all let that sink in. Like, there is so much going on in this country right now that I was just saying earlier that everybody's focusing on the wrong things when there is so much happening in this country. You got the flooding in Texas, and we had some flooding here even in Washington State that was affecting people. As well as where was it? Somewhere else. I don't know if it was New Jersey, somewhere. Anyway, there's wars brewing. There's wars. Our country is just falling apart with this administration that claims that they're making things better. But for us regular people, it doesn't feel like that. You try to watch the mess to take your mind off of reality, but we really need to get tuned into what's going on. And I don't want to go biblical on anybody, but it does appear that we are living in the last days. Now, I remember as a child, things was going on and it was said. Now, in this day and time, it feels like we are really, really living in our last days. I would just tell everybody, get your house in order because things are just, it's not good. So, anyway, as I was saying, that little girl, she is going to live with this for the rest of her life, with that image in her head. And knowing that her older sister, someone who she probably looked up to, is accused of causing that type of pain to her. Now, no matter how this story unfolds, like if we ever get to the truth of exactly what happened here, excuse me, that little girl just lost her entire family. Her mom, dad, and her sister all in one night. And she is the true innocent in all of this. Oh, Lord have mercy. This case is going to raise a lot of legal questions. At this point, when things like this happen, and I don't know if the young lady is talking or not. So far, we haven't received any reports that she said why or anything like that, which there is not a reason that you can give regardless of the situation. We can understand trauma and things like that happen. People do things out of rage or trauma, what have you. But there's never going to be a reason to certain people, especially the little innocent girl, that's going to make sense of why her parents are no longer here. However, should this 17-year-old be tried as an adult? Will the court look into possible abuse as a mitigating factor? And from a psychological standpoint, what pushes a teen to commit something this extreme? You have to think about that. Like, what the hell was going on? Now, We've seen cases like the Menendez and several cases, and then they came out years later saying that that's what happened, that it was, trauma involved in their reasoning for doing what they did. I hope and I pray that the truth comes out, not just the crime, y'all, but the context. Because if this girl was surviving something dark and nobody helped her, and the system failed her long before she ever picked up a weapon, and then you heard the neighbor saying it looked like she was putting on, she was acting. So there's all kind of questions like, was it rebellion? Was it mental illness? Was it just pure evilness? Or was it actually trauma behind it? You don't know. And sometimes even when the truth comes out, we're dealing with allegedly, possibly, if there was abuse involved. You still gonna have people, especially in small towns, that choose to turn a blind eye, unfortunately. At the end of the day, y'all, this is a story of silence because, like I said, nothing, no reports have come out that anything has been said. Somebody was silent about what was happening, and now two people are no longer here in the land of the living. One child's future has been destroyed, and another is left traumatized for the rest of her life. That child is going to need counseling, love, and I pray there is somebody around that can look after her and raise her and love on her the way that she's going to need it. And I hope it doesn't turn into another situation of a child ending up going astray or being lost in the shuffle in the world because something trauma. They went from having a two-parent household to going from pillar to post and then pretty much being out on their own at a young age. I pray that does not happen to this child. This story is still developing, and I will be watching closely to see what new details come out and emerge from this situation. But I hope investigators don't stop at the surface because sometimes the real story is buried beneath years of silence, secret, and survival. And what I mean by that is that sometimes police are so tunnel vision. They have tunnel vision. They're so focused on just getting a crime solved and getting a person in custody and getting them prosecuted to the furthest extent under the law without realizing that it could be mitigating circumstances that are the reason for this happening. So I hope they get to the bottom of this. And like I said earlier, everybody involved in this is in my thoughts and prayers. Let me know your thoughts, you guys, in the comments. Do you think, ooh, my head itching. Do you think there's more to this story than meets the eye, than what we've been told? Was this a case of a teenager's rage or buried trauma finally exploding and erupting? Okay? So, till next time, it's a Pisces perspective. I'm Tylane. This is Tylane Ducksworth Reviews, and I'm out. Y'all take care of yourself, okay? Bye bye. Lord have mercy.